Hey everybody, welcome to the workshop. Today we're going to be showing you how to build this do-it-yourself rail dolly. Basically, it's made of pretty simple parts that you can get at any Home Depot, Lowe's, or pretty much any other hardware store, and also some wheels that you could get from a Sports Authority or any sports store that sells wheels for rollerblades, or you could even use wheels for skateboard. I chose these ones just because they were a great deal and I couldn't pass it up. The total cost for this project is about $100, a little bit under $100, and it's a really easy thing to do. So today I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go over our parts list here, and starting over on the left side, we're going to need one of these 1-inch diameter steel tubing pieces that's been perforated, and these come in 3-foot lengths, so this one's already been cut, but you're going to need 2 of those 3-foot lengths for this project. And then you're also going to need one 3-foot long piece of threaded rod. And then you're also going to need one locking nut that can fit over the threaded rod. So you need to make sure that's the proper diameter. And you actually need 2 of these locking nuts, one for each rod. And then you're also going to need 4 of these washers. And these washers are the same size as a threaded rod here, so you can see they fit over the threaded rod like that. And then you'll need 2 non-locking nuts. And these are going to be going on this rod right here. So you'll need 2 for this rod and then 2 for the other rod. So you need a total of 4 of these nuts that'll fit on that rod. And then you're going to need 2 wing nuts that'll screw onto the end of that rod as well. So you're going to be needing 2 of those. And then over here to our wheels. Basically these are just cheap skate wheels for rollerblades that I purchased for about $25. They come in a pack of 8, obviously because there's 4 for each rollerblade, and they'll work perfectly for this project. They roll nice and smooth. They've got bearings in them, and they came with the bearings, so that was nice for $25. And so there's 2 different sizes, so we're going to use those 2 different sizes in this project. One will be the upper top rail wheel, and one will be the lower rail wheel. So you need one set of those wheels, and then you're also going to need a bolt. This is a 5/16 bolt, and it's about 3 inches long, and it doesn't have to be smooth like this on this portion. I just found that this one worked a little bit better for the rolling of the bearings. And so you're going to need a total of 4 of these for this project. And then over here we have a 4-inch long 5/16 bolt, and you're going to need 4 of these for the project as well. And then we have these locking nuts, which are going to thread onto the 5/16 bolts. And you're going to need a total for this project, for the wheel section, of 8 of these locking nuts. And then also for this piece, we're going to need a spacer. This is just a nylon spacer. They come at 1 inch long, and I cut this one to a 1/2 inch. If you can find a 1/2 inch, that'll work as well, but I just bought the 1 inch and then cut it down. So you're going to need a total of 4 of those. Obviously, if you can get them in 2 packs, or in packs of 1 inch, then you can cut them in half, so you only need 2 1-inch pieces and then cut them in half. And then you're also going to need washers like this to go onto your 5/16 threaded bolt. And you're going to need a total of 8 of these washers to go on this project. And then you're also going to need 4 of these larger washers to go on the project for the wheels. And now we're moving on to the other washers. For these non-threaded or non-locking nuts, they just go on nice and easy. We're going to need a total of 8 of those. So we're going to have 8 of those on this project. And so that's everything for the bottom frame with the rolling wheels section. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the top portion. Okay, so now we have right here what we're going to use for our top plate to mount our camera to. And this is basically a cutting board that I got from IKEA for a whopping $1 and I think 81 cents, so under $2 for that. And it's pretty sturdy plastic, and it won't really flex very much, which is good. And I found that it has this nice handle here, which we can use for part of the carrying of the project. So I'll show you where that comes in handy later on. Now for this piece, we are going to drill 3 holes into it. You can see I have 3 holes drilled. There's one here. This is going to be the hole for the tripod head. These 2 holes right here are going to be the holes for mounting the actual board to the frame of our rail dolly. And now to mount that to the rail dolly, we're going to need 2 of these 1.5 inch long bolts, and then also 2 of our wonderful locking nuts. And these nuts are the 5/16 and the bolts are also the 5/16, so the same size that we've been using for this project we'll continue to use. And now for the tripod head, we're going to need a washer like this, and this is a 3/8 bolt for a bigger tripod head. You'll have to check and see which tripod size you need. You might have the smaller one, but I have the bigger tripod head, so this is going to be the 3/8 inch tripod bolt, which will go with the washer in through the bottom. And then to lock that on, we're going to use a wing nut to hold that in place. Okay, so now for assembling the wheels, there's going to be the 2 different size wheels that you have. One's going to be for the top rail, one's going to be for the side rail. So you're going to need to put the 2 different kinds of bolts that we have through these wheels, and basically it doesn't really matter which side you use. The logo is on one side, so I'm going to go ahead and put it through so that the logo is going to be facing up. There we go. You just put your bolt through like that, and then you're going to take one of your non-locking nuts and you're going to thread that all the way onto that wheel. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to lock your wheel onto this bolt so that the wheel won't be able to move anywhere. So we're going to thread that down on there, and you'll want to take a ratchet and a wrench and go ahead and tighten that up so that that's relatively tight. And the nice thing about the rollerblade wheels is you can get them pretty tight and they don't affect the rolling of the bearing on the wheel, so it'll still roll pretty good. And now we're going to take the next non-locking nut that we have, thread that on there, and basically what we're going to use this for is spacing. So instead of using a spacer like on the other portion, because this is such a greater distance, we can just use this one and it'll adjust down or up. And so that helps when you're trying to adjust your dolly to roll on a different surface. If you need a lower side mount, you can bring this one up and it'll lower that wheel. If you need a higher side mount, then you can bring it down and it'll raise that wheel up. And then we're going to take our locking nut, and that will eventually go onto the top here, and this is going to slide in through the rail portions that we have for the frame of the dolly. And so that would just go onto the top here, and then for now we can just have that like that. And basically you're going to make 4 of these like this, and then they'll be ready to put onto the frame of the dolly. And now for the top wheel that we have that's going to be sitting on top of the rail and rolling with most of the weight, we're going to be using the 3-inch 5/16 bolt that we have. I'm going to put that through the wheel here, and basically that's going to go through, and then we're going to take one of our smaller washers here and slide that on, and then we're going to take the other smaller washer, and all we're doing with this really is just spacing. So this is going to get spaced like this, and then it's going to be complete like that. And it really doesn't matter what the configuration is that you use this. I mean, you could take this and use the spacer on first, and then use the 2 washers on like that, and then that's going to go through the frame of our rig right there. And then we're going to take one of our locking nuts, and we're going to screw that locking nut onto the end, and that'll basically hold that to the frame right there when you get that nice and tight. And so that's going to be, you're going to need 4 of those, and those are going to be for the top wheels that are going to roll on your rails like that. So now what we're going to be working on is how to put together the frame of the piece, which is going to be able to hold our wheels up and hold the dolly up on top of those rails. So we're going to take our 3-foot pieces of steel square tubing that's been perforated, and we're going to cut them down to these 2 lengths. So you're going to have one that's 12 inches and one that's 16, and you're going to do this twice. So you should have 2 pieces that are 12 inches, 2 pieces that are 16 inches, and then those are going to be either side of our dolly. So these are real nice because they've already got the holes in them, so you can use the bolts and just put the bolts right through with the wheels on them. But there is one problem. With these pieces, the holes are just barely too small for our rod to go through smoothly. I want that to slide in and out of there nice and smooth so we can adjust the width of our dolly. So what I've had to do is I've had to go and cut the holes a little bit bigger. So I've taken just a drill bit. It works really easy if you already have a drill press, and you can just press those through with the drill bit. And you want it just a little bit bigger than the rod so that the rod can smoothly slide through like that. You don't want it to be too tight on there. And so we're going to take our what we had, our locking nut, and screw that on real tight to one end of this rod. And so that's going to be basically a permanent fixture that's going to be on that end. And then we're going to take a washer, and we're going to drop a washer onto that. And then once we've got the washer on there, we're going to take our 16-inch piece, and we're going to count in 4 holes. And at the 4th hole in, we're going to take the rod and put it through. So I've got my hole drilled right here, and this is the one that I drilled out, so it's a little bit bigger. And you can see that the rod will go smoothly through basically both sides like that. And so we're going to take 2 rods like this. We're going to take our second rod, and we're going to put it in to the 4th hole down on this side right here, and so that's going to be going through that direction. And then we're going to take the second 12-inch piece that we have, and this 12-inch piece is going to slide onto our rod right here at the 1 step in. So at 1 hole in, we're going to slide that on there, and then you'll do the same thing with the top piece here, so that'll slide through. So you'll basically have 2 rods going through here to support it. And once you have those 2 rods going through there, you'll take one of these non-locking nuts, and you'll screw this nut on all the way down to here, and this nut's going to hold these 2 pieces together on this rail side. So you're basically going to have a permanently mounted piece to the rail on this portion, and that's going to help you keep these 2 pieces in line, and it'll keep it rigid as well. So you're going to screw that all the way down to the base here, and then we'll have that portion finished, and that'll be basically one side of our track dolly. So now we have our pieces attached here, and they're really tight together, and we've got this nut tightened down so that they're not going to move around at all. Then you're going to thread on another set of nuts onto this side, and you're going to bring about 2 inches down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to attach these 2 rails the same way we did on this side, only flipped. Small 12-inch rail on first, and then bigger 16-inch rail on second. Okay, so now that we have our rods here, we're going to take our wheels that we prepared earlier, and we're going to unscrew that locking one from the top. And then we're going to take this, and we're just going to thread this through, right through that first hole right there. And so it's going to come up like that, and then you're going to start your locking washer on the top, or locking nut on the top. And so that's going to be your side wheel for the side of the rail that's going to move through here. And then you're going to take the second one and do the exact same thing to the other side. So you're just going to slip it through there and then tighten that on. And then we're going to take our top portion. And this is going to be the one that sits on top of the rail. And so we're going to put that through right here. And you're going to put your spacer on the inside. Notice I'm putting on the inside, not the outside. And so that spacer is going to go on there. And then you're going to put your locking nut right there, and then you'll tighten that down and it won't move at all, so you have a nice strong wheel there on the frame. So what we have here is our half of our rail with our wheels on it, and our other half which has the wheels on it, and we're going to basically just assemble it like this. And the reason this is modular is because what you can do is you can assemble this 2 different ways. You can have it where you have your rail going on the outside of the rig, so you have, say, 2 outer rail poles that are going to go through here, or you can take this portion and instead of mounting on the outside, you can flip it on the inside and mount on the inside, and then you have basically something that can run on, like, say, a banister or any kind of square rail, so if it's 2x4 or whatever you want, and that'll slide in between instead of running on the outside. So it's pretty nice that you can change it between those 2 configurations. But just for the purpose of this one, I'm going to be using some single rails on either side, so we're going to leave that on the outside like this. And so you're going to slide that together, and it'll sit on the outside of the rig like this. And so there's your 2 different sides of your rig. So now we have our rig almost completely assembled basically, and it looks like this. We have our locking washers over here, and what we're going to do with these is we need to measure basically the interior width of this rig. So we're going to take our tape measure, we're going to put it here, and basically we want to get the same distance on each portion. So the same distance here that it is over here. And then once you have that adjusted, then you can finally tighten down these outer wing nuts, and they'll go down tight on the washers. And that'll basically hold your rig together, and it'll make sure that it's square because the distance on either side is going to be the same. Okay, so once we have our fully complete rig here, we're going to do the mounting for our top plate. We've already drilled our holes in the 3 places. Then we're going to take these bolts, and they're going to line up with the rail here. And so you can basically want to line them up with a couple of holes on the rail, and that'll drop in there. And then you want to take your locking nuts, you're going to put those through on the bottom, and then you'll be able to thread your single big wing nut over the tripod mount, which is a 3/8 bolt. And then you want to put your washer on that, and then that's going to come up through this center hole here, and that will be what you actually attach your tripod to. Okay, so now we have our finished rail dolly here, and I just want to say that the last thing I talked about with the top was the handle, and you can see that it's nice and easy to grab it and carry it with, and it's strong enough to hold the whole thing up. And then also for my rails, I'm using just 6 foot long. These are basically extension tubes, and they're aluminum. You can get them at the hardware store. They were $17 a piece, I think. They're basically used for the extension pieces for smoothing out concrete. They attach together at the ends, they lock in, so you can basically make this longer than just 6 feet, which is really nice. They're also a lot lighter than any galvanized fence post would be. That was my other choice, and I decided to go with these ones even though they costed a bit more, just because they felt lighter and it was still just as sturdy. So there we have the finished rail rig, and you can see it works nice and smooth on the railings. Thanks for watching.